thanks for having me. Very pleased to be here. Yes, I am from England, and my dear wife has made me promise not to mention the Cricket World Cup too much, either 2019 or the current one. So I'm going to be a very good boy and not say that it was super for you to invite me over to be part of this event, but hey, sorry, Brits, we don't get much chance to kind of brag about sport. But anyway, my name is Mike Hartley, and this is Colourise My Life, Power Apps That Pop. So, if PowerPoint behaves itself, who am I? Who am I? I've been working in IT for about 30 years, just shy. And during that time, I've done all the jobs under the sun, got all the scars, got all the T-shirts and the socks and the PTSD from it all, quite frankly, as well. I've been using Dynamics CRM or 365 since version 3 and Power Platform and all that jazz as well. I'm exceedingly passionate about mental health, accessibility, community, diversity, inclusion. They're kind of my big things. And I am the founder and co-host of the Things We Don't Talk About podcast. You can scan that QR code to get to all my links and my socials and everything else. I'd love for people to connect with me, and I'm always happy to chat to people. And please, if you've got any questions, I will be trying to keep an eye on the chat. But Eric, if you see any questions that are kind of burning that I don't pick up on, please just ask away. I'd rather have a conversation than give you a lecture. It's kind of not the kind of thing that I do. I'd rather chat to people and answer questions, so long as it's on this topic. Then we're all good. Coming up, I do promise you this is not PowerPoint heavy. Anybody who's experienced one of my talks before, I do often have a lot of slides because I'm presenting data. This is very demo driven, so I'm really praying the demo gods are going to be nice to me. However, there are some slides because there has to be. So we'll be looking at the same old blue and grey. What are the possibilities? We'll take a look at a data-driven theme creator and explore kind of what the world of possibilities looks like with all things to do with kind of canvas apps, UX design, UI design, and everything else. And then if you've not already asked your questions, we'll have Q&A as well at the end. I do promise I will try and keep to time. Demos being demos, I'll either finish early or I'll be panicking and running towards the end. So we shall see. It's going to be an adventure for me as much as you. So I had to throw in Abel Wang. Don't accept the defaults here. Power apps. You go in, you create a power app, and we all know what they look like. It's the blue and the grey. The blue and the grey look. It's that standard look. It's effective. It does its job. It gets apps out there nice and quickly that work and inoffensive. But they're just boring now. Everybody's done the blue and the grey app. And it's like, well, surely there's got to be something better. The whole thing with Canvas apps is pixel perfect design, and you can create all this amazing stuff, and we've seen Super Mario and Lemmings and all this lot created in Canvas apps. But the challenge is kind of doing this stuff in a way that really works for makers, for citizen developers. And I know that some people feel the urge to vomit when they hear that phrase, and others people's kind of go, yay, city devs, we love them. Your mileage may vary. But the fact is that your average citizen developer who picks up Power Apps, having never done anything, they're going to create the blue and the grey. They may play with the colours, and what they will end up with will probably be an unholy mess, because they'll miss things. So I'm here to tell you that there are alternatives. There are things out there that can help. So I'm going to introduce you to the world of awesomeness that exists within the Microsoft community. But first, there's going to be a quick detour. And I've already mentioned what my passions are, and one of them I have to mention every time, because this underpins everything that we build, or it should do, and that is accessibility. So let's talk about accessibility for a moment. Accessibility is all about making what we build usable by people who are not just disabled, but who might have different needs in terms of the way that they use the apps and use computers. So keyboard navigation for people who don't use mice, people who use screen readers. I would normally have subtitles switched on, but it kind of doesn't work too well embedded in Teams when you can already turn captions on and transcriptions on. So if you need subtitles, please do turn them on. And colour is a very key part of accessibility. For example, at the moment, I'm being blasted by pure bright screens. During the daytime and my day job, I have an app that puts quite a heavy yellow filter on my screen, because if I were to sit in this brightness, I've got two big monitors, which is kind of why I'm doing this all the time, because they are big widescreen monitors. If I were to have them shining at me all day, I would end the day with a migraine. And I do mean a migraine, not just a headache. That's not a disability, that's kind of an accessibility need. I know that if I'm bombarded by this, it will just cause me problems. Now, there are two things that really help us with this, and they are two acronyms that are the standards for accessibility. We have WCAG, WCAG, and we have ARIA. WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. This is what the World Wide Web Consortium came up with as a set of guidelines for defining what an accessible website should look like. That set of rules and guidelines has been taken to underpin a lot of digital accessibility and content. So if you run Accessibility Checker in Office, it uses WCAG guidelines and the rules defined in there to say whether what you've done is a pass or a fail, or is an error or a warning, and what have you. And then ARIA is the Accessible Rich Internet Applications standard. And it's kind of the more meaty developer element of the WGAC standard. So it sits under WGAC. And it defines in depth how you make rich applications work for accessibility. And these are really kind of quite key things for how we go about designing what we build. They define things like color contrast ratios. So is your text and your background color far enough apart in the color contrast spectrum? There are ratio numbers to define that. If you're using images on a web page or what have you, is there alt text so that a screen reader can tell the screen reader user what that image contains? Because funnily enough, a screen reader can't read an image, it can only read text. Strange that. Fonts and formatting, and this is one that really can affect apps, because I've seen some beautiful apps that use lovely handwritten fonts that they've managed to get in there, and you look at them on a small screen and you're like, I actually can't tell what that says. And if you're somebody with dyslexia or vision difficulties, the choice of font and formatting can be really crucial to whether you can use that app or that digital content. Think about navigation. Most people will use a mouse or a touch screen if it's on a phone. But we need to think about people who use a keyboard to navigate. I've tried it. I often resort to keyboard, to be honest with you, because I've got both hands on my keyboard, don't have to move my hand to my mouse, I can just tab away and get to where I need most of the time, some of the time. And then we do need to think about screen readers. And this does apply to our apps. How do we name things? How do we describe things in our apps so that a screen reader can read out and help people understand what is being presented on the screen? Not everybody who uses your app will have good eyesight. Some of them may have no eyesight. So a screen reader is really a big deal for these people. And then page structure and tags, that kind of more applies to documents and to power pages and things like that. But even so, the actual structure of your app and the layout of it, how does it flow? And again, this kind of feeds back into navigation and screen readers. Because if it's not logical when you're using a tab key or you're listening to it on a screen reader, it's just going to be horrendous and really, really bad user experience. And on that note, that's the end of the quick detour, kind of. So let's get back to it. And I want to introduce you to 3 big community contributions. We have Christine, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her surname, and do forgive me, Christine. I can never remember how to pronounce it. We have Sancho Harker, and we have the PowerCat team and people like Scott Duro and what have you. And these 3, along with others, there are others out there, Pen Warner, Matt Devaney has done a fair bit of stuff as well. These people are doing a lot around user experience, user interface design within Power Apps. And they're also doing it with accessibility as well. So good looking, highly functioning, but accessible stuff. So I told you this was going to be demo led. So let's go to first demo. Okay, I will drop straight to here. No, to this one. So Christine, if you have not come across her work, seriously try and take a look. The stuff that she's created is just mind-blowingly awesome. This is her neumorphic, however you pronounce it, user interface kit. This is a Canvas app. And what is amazing here is that you have got so many different elements that are really, really beautiful looking. They are absolutely gorgeous controls. She's made them so you can change the colors. You've got the pretty animation and everything else. We then come over to a slightly different thing in that what Sancho Harker's built, and Sancho's been around a while with this. This is version 3 that came out the beginning of this year, and it's a template engine that allows you to design and build templates out and themes and have lots of different color themes, and then create the controls that use those. So it's not going. You can use all this, you can try it all. And the good thing with what Sancho's built is he then provides you with a way of incorporating this in your own apps. So you can provide an MS app. He's also built some other accessibility things in, so a grayscale mode and text increase and decrease, which is really, really cool in here. And it's phenomenal what he's built. And it's formed the foundation for a lot of people's apps. It provides the capability to be able to dynamically switch your color theme or assign a color theme to an app quite easily. Something slightly more recent, the PowerCat team, they've released this creator kit for Power Apps, and it's available for model-driven apps as well as Canvas apps. And its objective is to bring the Microsoft Fluent UI design language to Power Apps. So the design language we're used to seeing in Teams and Office and Windows, particularly if you're using Windows 11, the design language and the look and feel is very, very similar. Now, the default colors here, they are blue and gray still. But what you've got is you've got a whole host of components that can do loads of really amazing stuff. Things that we can't do by default within the controls. Okay, let me, we've got panels and we've got dialogues that we can pop up. So there you go. Dialog boxes and things like that. We've got lots of different ways of doing command bars with the very familiar look and feel of things. What they have also done is they've made sure that all of this stuff is accessible. So if I go, you can see I am tabbing about the screen and I can use the keyboard. I'm using the keyboard at the moment. I'm not using my mouse. And I'm tabbing through the controls to get through to different items. It's really, really nice. And what they have also done is they've created this Fluent UI theme designer. So you don't have to live with blue and grey. You can have red. And you can set your text color to yellow. Oh, hold on. What they've done is they've built in their theme designer flags to say whether I have accessibility errors. And in this case, I don't think it takes much of a genius to spot that that text against a white background is not going to work very well. It fails on contrast ratios quite clearly. However, if I move it you will get to a point where you can see that some of it is working, some of it is not. And you can build this. Now, the thing is with this, you pick 3 colors, your background, your primary, and your text. But it then creates shades of based on your colors, and it's those shades that can actually fail the accessibility checker. So if I come up here, it's actually secondary text color on background color that's failed. It's not the text color, it's the secondary text color. So neutral secondary on white. So there you go. Neutral secondary. It's that kind of reddish pinkish color on a white background, does not have a high enough contrast ratio. But you can create your color theme and you can come up with a nice color theme, or one that is completely horrendously grotesque. Let's go seriously ugly, because can. Let's go fluorescent yellow. There we go. So I can create a color scheme that is horrendously ugly but is still accessible. And then what I can do is I can export that theme and it creates a block of code that I can include in the on start of my app. And where I'm using these components from the Creator Kit, it will use the colors that I've got here. And it's all really, really amazing stuff. It is. I absolutely love the stuff that's been created. Let me turn the subtitles off there. I love the stuff that's been created. It's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely gorgeous. Lots of different ways of approaching a problem. And there's another approach, another one. This one is a data-driven solution. So an easy way to offer multiple themes in all apps. Things like dark mode, light mode, high contrast, low contrast, more yellowy coloured filter, so no white background, things like that. With a data-driven approach, when marketing decide they're going to do a new rebrand, yay, and we're going to have a whole new colour scheme, you can centrally create a new colour theme in the data source, and all apps that are using this mechanism will get that colour theme, and all your apps automatically can have a default theme that is the new corporate branding overnight, nice and simple. Quite a nice thing to have, really. WGAC compliance included, so web content accessibility guidelines, making sure that color contrast is included in there. You build using the standard controls that you get from insert menu in the Power Apps Maker portal. But with a little bit of tweaking, it's adaptable to work with the Creator Kit. And the data, it can be in Dataverse, which is where it is at the moment, because that's where my brain goes. You could do it in SharePoint list. It's actually one of the rare occasions I will say that a SharePoint list is actually a pretty good viable option for this. You could even use a SQL data source or Excel if you were really desperate. I wouldn't recommend Excel, but you could do it. So let's take a quick look at how you could do that. So demo time again. Here we go. Now, this is version 1. I'm going to give you a sneak peek in a minute of what's to come. So what we've got here is we've got a Canvas app that you can select different color themes. This is, as I say, stored in Dataverse, and it allows you to pick your various color combinations. Because the color picker control is by Isha Prakash, and is a fantastic control, really helpful. And once you pick your colors, you click update and test. It goes away, it whirs, it thinks about it, and if it's going to be nice to me today, which it might not be. Version 1 actually calls a Power Automate flow. Let's just see if, oh, it did update. It says pass. They've all passed. It calls a Power Automate flow, it calls a web API. Main reason I did a Power Automate flow for this was because I needed to learn how to use APIs, and it was a bit of fun. And it does a color contrast check, and then away you go. You can then build a Canvas app. Here I've got a very basic library app, which, as I say, very, very basic. And I can embed my color schemes in here. And I've got a drop down that colorizes my app straight away. Now, yes, it does use a data connection. So there's a table called color schemes in Dataverse. In the app itself, in the on start, let's go here. What I do is I define a set of default values that are used, and then when it loads the data connection, it loads the default scheme in place as well. And then all controls are defined so that they use variables. Now, yeah, you have to remember to use the variables for the color schemes of the different buttons, but copy and paste does take care of that. It's one area that Sancho's theme creator works really well, because he injects a whole huge amount of information in your app on start. That means that when you're creating new components, they inherit all these values by default. I've not gone that route with this theme creator because I wanted to keep it relatively low code. Using variables is not too difficult for people, and you can copy and paste controls. One of the things that there is in here, if I go into the gallery, you've got your border color, which is your standard blue border color. There is then also a focused border color. So what does it look like when I've used the keyboard to navigate to it? And if I come up to, say, one of the drop downs, you also have the hover border color, which I always set to the same as the focus border color, which is set to the variable. So if I play this app and I use my keyboard, let's start here. If I use my keyboard, you can see where I'm navigating to, and you can see what's happening when I'm moving the tab key or pressing, in this case, Shift Tab. And that is a really key part of designing accessible apps that still look good. But any other user, it's just a standard hover thing. If they're using a mouse, it just has a hover border. But for somebody using the keyboard, they're getting a very clear indicator of, yeah, I know exactly which component I'm on. And I've got the gallery to highlight the selected item as well in there. And this is very, very quick and simple to implement across the board. And all my themes that I create centrally in Dataverse, they're available. So my app by default has this all available. Now, version 1, I'm proud of it. It was something that is great and it's available on GitHub. But I'm working on version 2. And this time, there's no Power Automate flow. It's done with calculations. And there's a few more options with the colors. So as well as having a main color with background and text, button color, let me just select. Just going to think about it because the data connection's gone to sleep. There you go. You can have your a light color, what your selections are going to look like, blue and yellow for those of a certain era of things like WordPerfect and when command line got color eventually, blue and yellow will ring bells. And even have a logo that goes with this color theme, with this theme. So I mean, I've got the Heart of the Midlands logo here. It stands out because it's white on black. But what if I were to have the theme so my background was white all of a sudden? I could have a logo that is a black version of the Heart of the Midlands logo that then got put in that place as well. And if I run this, I can come here and I can select, say, my theme with fails, and I can use the color picker, and you can see it dynamically tells me whether it's passing the WGAC standards. There are 2 levels. There's AA, which is, yeah, you're doing a great job, brilliant, thank you, awesome work. And then there's AAA, which is, you are a legend, this is amazing, this is the gold standard of where everybody should be aiming for. Obviously, the contrast ratios for AAA are a bit more stringent. So I can come here and I can say buttons, let's change you to, well, let's have you as a dark purple, shall we? And then that passes, and then I can come here and again I can say, okay, let's make you a blue. Let's see, let's see if that's going to. And you'll be surprised actually at some color combinations. They can be really quite sensitive. Let me try and see if I can get this. Actually, does that one fail at all? It says trying to find a sensitive one. So there you go. This color combination of a slightly lighter blue on white, it passes AA for normal text, but it fails AAA. And you've got that immediate feedback in your theme design, so you can build an accessible approach. And you can really come up with something that is quite amazing quite quickly. And away you go. This is going to be coming out fairly soon. I've got some work left to do. It does work with a keyboard, although I will say there are issues with keyboard navigation in Power Apps, but it works with a keyboard. One of the big issues is it puts PCF controls after every other control in the hierarchy, so it doesn't matter where you put them on the screen, it will move them around. So hey, there we go. So that's kind of what the possibilities are, the kind of the future. The one thing I'll say is that perfection in this is impossible. None of those solutions, Christine's, Sancho's, the PowerCat teams, mine, none of them are perfect. They all have issues. They all have hurdles to overcome, and none of them are 100% accessible, because you cannot make 100% accessibility. But each one of them enables you to create Power Apps that are not blue and grey, that look different, that have just that wow factor to them, that look better. Different approaches. You can go with the neumorphic approach of having something that looks radically different but uses HTML controls and bits like that. You can go for more theming. You can go for a fluent UI so it fits in with Windows. You can go for a combination of them all. But you can make it so that makers have options. And more importantly, users have options. You can build in options quite easily. The key with all this is that it's all about progress with this. We can change things. We can make things look better. It's not going to happen overnight. But there are tools out there that we can use. There are. So on that note, have we got any questions? Because I've not been monitoring the chat because I've been rather...
Yes, there's one question from Lewis. I've had my attempt to answer it, but essentially, Lewis says, I've heard that a lot of pop-ups are inaccessible to screen readers. So Charlie, another MVP, introduced us to the live property of Canvas apps, which definitely helps with.
Yeah. Hi, Lewis. Thanks for joining us, bud. Yeah, pop-ups, as with any component, quite honestly, in Power Apps, however you do them, they can be inaccessible or they can be accessible. The dialogues that are in the Creator Kit do get picked up by screen readers, I believe. But what I will say is, with screen readers, I don't know any screen reader user who only uses a single screen reader. So I don't use screen readers, but for my testing, I use Windows Narrator, which has got better over the years, and I use one called NVDA. There's also one called JAWS that a lot of people use, but you have to pay for. All three of those will give very different results. Some of them will work better with some apps than others. And that's why people have multiple ones available, because they know. So I'm giving that old consultant answer of it depends. Best thing to do is try it with a screen reader. If you're using Windows, you've got Windows Narrator. NVDA, it's an open source, it's free download. Give that one a whirl and talk to people. There are people out there who are more than happy to help test and develop and just come up with all these ideas. I'm working on building a network that will allow people to kind of hook in with accessibility experts and people who are interested, and accessibility users as well. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that question, Lewis. Awesome. Okay. Well, on that note, let me just quickly, I'll drop my links back up on screen there. The best one to actually grab me on is that link tree, because that's got all these links on it. But please do get in touch with me. Give me a shout. If you've got any questions about this stuff, give me a shout. I'm always willing to chat. I'll jump on Teams, WhatsApp, whatever, and talk to you. Patrick, build components that overlay the existing screen, it'll still be on the same screen. Yeah, there are ways of doing this, which is why I'm taking the it depends approach. It's, yeah, what Charlie Phipps said about using the live property, it does make a difference, but I've not played with it too much yet, so I need to explore that one. That's one of my projects for next month. So, but if there are any more questions, no questions,
Mike, I might have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
It's a great topic because, UI accessibility to look and feel is something that we often overlook, at least as pro devs. So, just taking that little extra step to make it a bit more elegant really improves. So, yeah, so definitely something as we're building apps, we should, spend a bit of time on. Question on the COE kit. I know it also comes with a theming component, sort of build some themes and all. And I know, as you shared, there's quite other ones as well. So as sort of a new builder or maker in this journey, which theming component would you recommend as a
Mine? Of course I'm going to say my one. Again, and I hate to be the consultant and say it depends. The COE one is really good. Some of these theming engines require you to kind of copy and paste quite big chunks of code or information in, or work in a very specific way. My one does as well to an extent. Nirvana would be that Microsoft actually come out with a proper theming engine that allows us to actually do this kind of thing. If you're going to be sticking to the basic or the main controls that come within Power Apps as standard, I would definitely say either Sancho's theming engine or my theming engine, because they're designed to work with the standard controls. If you're introducing a degree of, we want some uniformity and we want common look and feel, I would go with the Creator Kit and with their theme system in there. And if you're going for just downright absolute jaw-dropping beauty, then you go with what Christine has built, because I showed the silver version of the new Morphic UI. She's got an ice blue, she's got a dark one. Honestly, they are jaw-droppingly beautiful. I think for a new maker, the new Morphic one's probably a little daunting because it's just a different look and feel. Creator Kit's fairly easy to get to grips with, although adding the components can be a bit of fun and there is a touch of codiness to it. So, yeah, kind of hope that answers a bit.
Yep, it does. Thanks, Mike.
Apologies for the it depends, but as with all things, it does depend. The COE theming engine, I must admit, I haven't seen too many people actually using it for wider use, and I'm happy to be corrected on that. And please slap me down and shout at me if you're using it wildly. I would love to hear more on that one.
No, it's the same observation I am too.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. I know I've thrown accessibility in. The main theme of this was about creating gorgeous looking apps, but you can do that and you can make it accessible. So enjoy the rest of the Biz Apps New Zealand.